Chairman Gaston and Boyd Rankings Chickarella and Howard Vice Chairs and members of the Public Safety Committee. In 2017, as I prepared to run for office, I was made aware of a situation in my future district in Canton where a young woman who I hope sometime you will have the chance to hear from came to the Canton Police Department to file a report of sexual assault as a victim and was quickly turned into a suspect during the investigative process. She was accused of filing a false police report, and it eventually came to light that the officers in this case were not only incorrect in the accusation, but sadly did not take the time to investigate the sexual assault appropriately or to respond to the survivor with a trauma-informed response. While the case was eventually settled in court in favor of the survivor, it did not erase the trauma that she experienced. Last year, filmmaker Rachel DeLeon reached out to me, Representative Farrar, and Representative Gilchrist, among others, to direct us to her recent Netflix documentary, Victim Suspect. The survivor from Canton was featured in this film, as well as another high-profile case from Bridgeport and hundreds of others from across the United States. As the documentary demonstrates, women who turn to the criminal justice system to report a crime are instead treated as suspects for false reporting. In many of these cases, victims' names, pictures, and the details of their assaults were turned into salacious stories by news media, compounding the trauma they experienced. It's one of the few, if not the only, situations where an accusation of false report leads to an extreme response. Sadly, one of the women highlighted in the documentary took her own life over the stress of being turned into a suspect. But all of the survivors shared the negative and long-term impacts of being treated as suspects rather than victims. Last fall, the Bipartisan Women's Caucus partnered with the Connecticut Alliance to End Sexual Violence to hold a screening of the Victim Suspect documentary, followed by a panel directly after that included legislators, law enforcement, advocates, and survivors. One of the ideas that came out of that screening is what you see before you in HB 5399, the need to establish a model policy around the criminal justice response to sexual assault. We've worked with law enforcement to ensure the policy makes sense to them in terms of how they do their very difficult jobs. This isn't just a bill that victims or survivors want, it's a bill that law enforcement also wants and needs in order to serve the public to the very best of their ability. We ask that you support HB 5399 so that we can do more to make victims in Connecticut feel safe and to give law enforcement the additional tools they need when they are interacting with sexual assault survivors. And I would just say, as I was listening to testimony before I came up, I think it's exactly what the good Representative Howard said, that we want the right officer to be the one to respond to these victims, but we hope that the majority of the officers can be the right officer because of this model policy being put into place. Thank you. Appreciate the time.